All right, we are live. Hello, 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 fight fans all around the world. I am hosting. Monique is feeling a little under the weather today. She might be joining us later. So you are stuck with me as your host again. And of course, I got Dustin, our co-host, right next to us. Um, I'm real quick. I'll do our Twitter handles and stuff like that real quick. Of course, guys, you can always follow me right here, Alec TD Carr, for all my crazy off the wall opinions. If you want to hear some crazy theories about Ben Simmons and the 76ers, please follow me because I have some nutso ones that I'm sure you guys would like to talk about. Also, you get all Philadelphia rants, sports rants in general. Dustin knows that I like to rant about pretty much anything, ranging from what I ate for breakfast to what's going on in the world of sports. I can rant and rant and rant. Um, Also follow us at Fights on Wraps. It's literally the show. So if you're watching right now, or if you're watching later and you're not following Fights on Wraps, go ahead to our Twitter page and hit that follow button because that doesn't make any sense. Why would you like us and watch us and not follow us? And also, of course, as always, follow on Sports Network. It is a fantastic network. Lots of podcasts from all around the country, articles, content, YouTube channels. Please subscribe to the Unwrapped Sports Network YouTube channel. You'll get all kinds of football, basketball, baseball, hockey, fights. You name it, we got it. If it's done in sports, we probably have a group of people that talk about it on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to the Unwrapped Sports Network YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and check out the website too. And you can follow Dustin at, go ahead, Dustin.
No Censor Sports. You already know what it is.
All right, awesome, awesome, awesome. Now we got to just pay some bills, and we're going to get into some fun headlines we got. And really fun main event, but the rest of the card is kind of a little eh. Um, So let's pay some bills. We got, of course, we are a proud member of the RxHemp.com family. RxHemp, please use RxHemp-USN to get 10% off your entire order. Guys, if you're watching this and you know who Carlos Condit is, you know that guy is as good as his word is as good as gold. That guy loves RX Hemp. He's part of the RX Hemp family. He uses it before fights, even though he just retired. He uses it for workouts. He's still sponsored by RX Hemp. He is on their website, and we are proud to be part of their family. RxHemp.com, RxHemp-USN to get 10% off your entire order. Also, guys, please visit mybookie.ag. Lots and lots of bets you can place this weekend. NBA's in full swing now. So the NFL has been in full swing. We got playoff baseball. We got fights. We got everything going on this weekend. I love this time of the year. All the sports are going on at once. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. So please visit mybookie.ag and use promo code USM100 for 100% sign up bonus. That's right, 100% sign up bonus. Absolutely ridiculous offer. If you're a betting man, betting woman, betting them, betting whoever you are, please visit mybookie.ag. All right, so we got headlines, we got fights, we've got a lot of things going on in the fighting world. Sorry, I'm a little tired. Work's been crazy, but we've got lots and lots of stuff going on in the fighting world. Some really cool stuff to cover tonight. The first thing that we're going to cover, something, not so serious, not not to be taken with a lot of, you know, there's not a lot of likely that this is going to happen, but Orlovsky came out after his last victory, says he wants at least a chance to go on a title run. He wants to start fighting those top tier opponents again. I, for one, am on both sides of the fence on this one. I'm going to let Dustin kind of say his points about this first. Andrei Orlovsky is coming off of 2 victories in a row. One victory, not so impressive. The last victory, the last weekend, was pretty impressive. But Dustin, I'll let you talk about this for a little bit, then I'll get my points in just because I'm so undecided on this.
I say give him it. It doesn't make any sense not to. He's still a pretty good name in the UFC. Even casual fans know Pitbull. I mean, he's been pretty famous. He's been on Bully Beatdown. He's been on a lot of stuff that's pretty public. I mean, he's been out there in the UFC. I don't see why not give him a top 10 fight because, again, it's against these younger guys. And Dana always sets up the older guys, except, with the younger guys in the top 10 and guys he's trying to groom. So I don't see any reason not to give Orlovsky that fight. That really doesn't make sense not to give it to him. 2-fight win streak. And he's going to be a tough fight for a young guy. He's a really, really seasoned vet. He knows what he's doing in there. He's not stupid when it comes to the octagon and the crowds and the fans. He's very, very in tune. So there's nothing. I don't see anything stopping it. Now, do I want to see him get knocked out? No, I love him to death. But I think it's fine to give him somebody in the top 10. I mean, I'm not saying top 5 against some of these, probably like, step A or they're probably not a good idea. But against these top 10 guys, I don't see why not. It's either he loses or he wins. And it's a good name for probably a co-main. I don't see why not, especially in the UFC Vegas. I don't see why not.
Yeah, I could see it being a co-main on a UFC Vegas. My issue is the heavyweight division is just so damn good right now. So damn good. This is the first time in years that we've had a legit 7 guys who are like, I don't know if they're all 7 are true contenders, but a legit top. These 7 guys, I'll just read down. We got, of course, Francis Ngannou, the champ. Then we got interim champ Ciryl Gane. Then we got Stipe Miocic, Derek Lewis, Curtis Blades, Alexander Volkov, Jairzinho Rosenstrike, Chris Daukaus. That's your top 7 right there. I mean, that's insane. That's insane. Those guys are all killers, every single one of them. Whether I liked some of them or not, doesn't matter. They're all killers. Now, if you want to give them Marcin Tyburu, never say his last name, Marcin Tybura, or Sakai, I guess I could see that happening. Those are to round out your top 10 right there. Shamil, you give him Shamil too. He's not really anything too special. The reason I'm on the fence personally is I love this guy. I love him to death. One of the ways I got into the UFC was by watching the vicious kicks of Andrei Arlovsky. Having people say it's like getting hit with a metal baseball bat when you get hit with his kicks. He is just the nicest guy outside of the octagon, and then a pit bull. You described it best last week. He's an absolute monster when he gets inside the octagon. He was one of those first people to wear those Dracula mouth guards. I don't know if you remember that. He did that. He still does it, but he did it. He was one of the first guys to do it back in the day. And he's just, I would hate to see him go out by getting knocked out by one of these young guys who are gunning towards the top. But if you give him 9, like I said, you give him Tybura, you give him Sakai, I'm totally okay with that. I'd love to see him fight against those guys. I don't have his fight record in front of me. I thought he fought Sakai and lost already, but I could be wrong on that. But again, this is a guy he showed last week. He's still got something left in the tank. I'm okay with giving him one last chance. Give him a top 10 opponent. If he beats him, I don't think he can keep up with any of those other guys I mentioned before. But if he beats them, let's give him a chance. Let's see what happens. Maybe he gets the Glover Teixeira effect, where at the very end of his career he goes on a ridiculous run and is now fighting for a title. Who knows? Teixeira did it. Maybe a freak like Andrei Arlovsky.
People forget Lawler did it too. Lawler was in the UFC way before that run. Way before that run. We're talking when Nick Diaz was young. So, yeah.
Right. You're right. It does happen. It's not unheard of. Dan Henderson came back from Strikeforce and went on a run in the UFC. And I'm sorry, he beat Bisping in that fight, that rematch. He absolutely annihilated him. I don't know what the judges were watching during that fight, but he did go on that title run when he came back to the UFC. he left. No, sorry, he was given that fight on his return to the UFC in a retirement fight. In Strikeforce though, when he left the UFC and went to Strikeforce, he went on an absolute tear, knocking out some of the greatest fighters. Because Strikeforce was legit for a little bit. They had Fyodor Emelianenko that Dan Henderson knocked out with a right hand, with a left hand, not a right hand. The Dan Henderson went on a bit of a tear at the end, and then came back to the UFC and put up a really good fight. So it does happen late in careers. It really does.
Strikeforce honestly was legit all the way up until they sold, because that's how the UFC swallowed their fighters. So to be honest, Strikeforce was a legit promotion. That was neck and neck with the UFC until again they sold and pretty much gave their roster up. So that was legit.
Henderson at the age of I think 37 went on a 4-fight win streak, knocking out each and every one of his opponents in front of him. Then came back to the UFC and fought Bisping for the championship. Ridiculous. Anyway, we got to move on. I think we're both in the camp now. Give him a top 10 and see what happens. There's nothing that I could do to hurt. Give him one of the guys at the bottom of the top 10. I'm on board. You convinced me, Dustin. All right. So next headline, we're gonna talk about one of my favorite guys in the UFC right now. We got Chael Sonnen making comments that I finally agree with for once about one of my most favorite guys to watch in the UFC, Bronx, Charles Oliveira. He basically came out, Chael Sonnen, to paraphrase what he said, came out and said in an interview that he feels that the most disrespected champion right now and the most disrespected fighter right now is Charles Oliveira. Dustin and I have talked about this at length in the past. I absolutely 120% agree with this. This is absolutely ridiculous. These guys, I don't know if they're dodging them, if they know it's not a big payday, but it's getting to the point. I mean, we have the Poirier fight. It finally got scheduled. Finally, after Poirier turned it down twice, it finally gets scheduled. So that's a benefit, but it took forever. Rumors swirling that people were turning down fights against him left and right, and then guys like Gaethje coming out saying, I don't really recognize him as my champion in my division because he just hasn't beaten anybody. Yeah, because nobody will fight him. So if you really, and we've been over this, we've beaten this to death, but I think it is important to bring up because we are leading up into his next fight. And it's going to come up on us very quickly. And I think people have forgotten how good this man is because this is a guy who Michael Chandler rocked, he recovered, and then proceeded to kind of destroy him. This is a guy that's on a ridiculous win streak in the UFC, beating some top of the top opponents. Disrespected is putting it lightly, in my opinion. This guy's an absolute stud. He can strike. He's got the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu probably in the entire UFC right now. The guy is legit, and he showed us that he has some top game. Dustin, do you agree with Chael? Do you disagree with Chael? What are your thoughts?
I absolutely agree with Chael. I mean, how do you disagree? First of all, I'm going to point out, this is my whole opinion. I think a lot of this is Khabib's fault because Khabib left in his prime. When you leave a division in your prime, when you're unbeaten in that division, all the champions after you are going to be questioned. That's just fact. And all these guys got beaten by Khabib, and Bronx is probably the only one that hasn't. And here's the big thing about it is, again, I think what Khabib did damage the 155 division. Because a lot of these guys left a chip on their shoulder. Oh, he's not Khabib. No, he's not. He's not the king. And I'm just like, dude, he mopped up Ferguson. He beat up Michael Chandler. I mean, I'm not saying that he's a world beater. I'm not saying he's better than Khabib by any means. But Khabib left this mystique that he is not the king. And I believe that to be true. That's the reason he's not getting respect. If he beat Khabib, they would all shut their mouths, all of them. And Justin Gaethje, I don't know what his thing is about saying people aren't the real champion. He hasn't fought any. Justin Gaethje hasn't fought anybody in the top 5 except Khabib, except Tony. That's it. He hasn't fought any of these guys. So how the hell does he get to judge who the real champion is, dog? You haven't even fought anybody in the top 5, except one guy who has gotten beaten up like 3 times in a row. That looks washed up. So therefore, I can't wait to see him against Michael Chandler. Honestly, I hope Michael Chandler lays this dude flat because he thinks for some reason that he's like the best ever because he rocked Khabib one time. Yeah. You know who else rocked Khabib? Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson
Connor.
Put him on skates. Connor almost put him on skates. But Khabib just has a big chin and he's a lion, dude. It's very hard to hold the dude down. But this is Khabib's fault, dude, Bronx. And if they all think he's the fake champion, stop being a little pussy and fight him. How about that? If he's not the real champ, show him. Show him.
That's my thing too. That's exactly right. If you don't think he's the real champ, then why are you not taking fights? Why are you not calling him out? Why are you not saying, "Hey, Dana, schedule a fight between me and Charles because I want to fight this guy"?
If he's so easy, go knock him down. Go knock him down. I don't understand.
Go prove it. Prove it. Be different than Clay Guida, Christos, Giagis, Jim Miller, Tymer, Lentz, Gordon, Lee, Ferguson, Chandler. Be different than those guys and actually beat this man.
First of all, be the real top 5 before you talk shit.
Yeah. Then my whole thing with Gaethje, and we can talk this to death too. My whole thing with Gaethje is exactly your whole thing with Gaethje. He hasn't really fought anybody. He did kind of. I wouldn't say he put Khabib on skates. He definitely rocked him and stunned him with his power. But Khabib immediately after that recovered and just said, "All right, I'm winning."
He took him down. Yeah,
as
soon as Khabib realized he was about to get knocked out, he took him down.
Yeah, Khabib went, "All right, I'm done playing with my food. I'll just win right now."
That's the thing. That's why he's the king, because he tells himself the truth. If he stood up with Gaethje, he was going to get knocked down. If he told him the truth, he was just honest, bro. He was like, "This dude is gonna rock my shit. I am about to put him on his back." That's exactly what he did. Exactly. Right. I'm gonna get my shit rocked and put him on his back.
And I would never say Du Bronx is the king of the division. He's certainly not. Khabib is still in everybody's eyes the king of the division. I got news for everybody. He's not coming back. He's just not. Don't expect it.
Sadly,
I would love to see a Du Bronx versus Khabib fight. I would absolutely love. I would pick Khabib in that fight, but I would love to see Khabib's his wrestling style versus the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Khabib's winning that fight unless if Khabib gets cocky and decides to stand with him. But Khabib's winning that fight every single time. I think it's a very interesting matchup that we've never seen. A stylistically fighter that the style that Du Bronx fights in is something Khabib's never seen in the octagon. He's never seen a guy with that level of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
He hasn't seen an elite grappler. That's all great, to be honest.
Right, exactly. So I would love to see it. Khabib's not coming back because I also want to put this forward. Khabib's also not afraid of Du Bronx. He's just done. He's done with the sport. That's all it is. He wants to coach. He wants to teach. Good on him. I'm proud. I'm happy for him.
If he's done with the sport, he really needs to shut the fuck up to the media, though. I don't.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother topic. He does need to shut up to the media. He does bring girls and saying it's against his religion.
Why would you talk about the ring girls, dog?
It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. But yes, we both agree with Chael Sonnen. Charles Oliveira is on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fight win streak. That doesn't happen on accident. You don't just luck into a 9 fight win streak. And a 10 fight win streak if you count his grappling match against Lucas Burrows, who is one of the top of the line grapplers in the entire world. uh, who he absolutely annihilated in a grappling match. So let's not get it twisted. This guy's not a joke. He's not a paper champ. He is a legit champion on a 9 fight win streak that is going to extend it to 10, as I believe he will in against Dustin Poirier. I don't think Dustin can keep up with that level of grappling. Real quick before we move on, I do want to give some shout outs. We have Unwrapped Sports Network shouting us out, saying, "Let's go team." Thank you guys. He wants to thank everybody for following and tuning in to Fights Unwrapped. And again, let's go. We're pumped. And like I said, we're proud members of the Unwrapped Sports Network, and we do want to thank everybody for tuning in as well. But we are moving on. This is a topic that kind of talks about what me and Dustin have been talking about for 3 weeks straight now. Patty Pimblett has been UFC most anticipated UFC debut since Ben Askren. Came into the UFC and absolutely annihilated his opponent. Looked like he was everything we were told he was. Lived up to the hype. Just destroyed. I'm pulling up his fight history now because he won so badly. I don't even remember who he fought. I don't know if you do, Dustin, but I don't know. It wasn't important. All right, he fought Vendramini, who was not a huge name, but I mean, Patty Pimblett did exactly what he was supposed to do in that fight and absolutely destroyed him. And the other thing with Patty is talk about Conor McGregor level of charisma. Yes. This guy's got it. He got it. He has it. I don't know if he's going to be as good as Conor, but he has that level of confidence, that level of charisma. He is a top flight fighter. The guy's an absolute beast. He has been forever. And not to mention, he is only 26 years old. This guy's got a huge future ahead of him. Anyway, that's all important to understand what I'm about to talk about. He is on his first UFC contract, so he is not making a lot of money. I think it's very low, actually. I forget what it is off the top of my head.
Probably 10,000 to show, 10 to 15,000 to show, 15,000 to win. Probably a double contract like they always do.
Well, yeah, he's not on his prospect contract. They didn't start him with a prospect contract though, so he's like a tier higher than most people. So I think he's normal. Like 2025.
Maybe around 20. That's normal too, though. Even for guys.
Still low. So he got asked if he was offered a top 10 fighter, if he would take it, and his exact words were, "Not on the money that I make." And I gotta say, man, I like this. I hate it. I'm kind of on the fence with this one. He's only had one UFC fight his entire career. Granted, the guy's an absolute monster. He's been on a tear. He's got the charisma. He's got everything. But you know, he goes right in the ranks of Sean O'Malley, saying, "I don't want to risk my career fighting one of these top 10 guys while not getting paid." I really think this is the beginning. You know, when I saw this headline, what I immediately thought about was the NBA players realizing their value to the teams. And now the NBA players have a lot of control of what happens in the NBA. And it was the young guys like LeBron James, when he was young, realized what their value was. Kevin Durant realized what his value was. These guys took a stand with the NBA and said, "We are not playing until we get paid our worth." These young guys that are holding out on that could be huge money-making fights for the UFC, if this starts to become a trend, this could be a problem for the UFC, that these guys like Patty Pimblett will not fight top 10 opponents until their second contract. I think it makes sense for them. I hate it because I want to see Patty fight somebody big, a top 10 opponent soon. I want to see him fight him this year. I just want to see it. I want to see if he can hold up to the hype. But I also respect his opinion. What about you, Dustin? What do you think?
Welcome to the new wave, dude. Welcome. It is going to present a problem to UFC, and I agree with. Honestly, I respect him and Sugar Sean so much because they're sticking up for other fighters, whether they're doing it directly or indirectly. They're sticking up for other fighters, and they're doing it in a very good business model. Yeah, Dana, I'll fight that 6 contract bullshit that you signed me into. Guess what, though? Don't try to put me up against no killer. You're going to put me against tomato cans, and if you don't, well, I'm going to deny it. So therefore, and then if someone like Patty and someone like Sean with that big of a following and that big of an entertainment value signs with somebody else, don't act like they won't bring a draw, because they will. So let's just say John Jones missed his contract when he was young, and he told him, Dana, I want more money. And Dana was like, no, F you, dude. Then he was like, oh, I'm going to finish my contract. I'm going to finish it. But I ain't fighting no championship fights. And I was like, just go ahead and put me on the co-main. Nope, I'm good. And then when my contract's over, if you don't want to give me more money, I'm going to go fight for a promotion that I can bring 1.2 PPV buy, 1.2 million PPV buys for. And I'm going to move on with my life. It's going to happen. And these guys are new, and they have it right. I swear to God, they have it right. Fight that contract and get out if he doesn't want to pay you.
The one thing we disagree on this whole subject, and it's only one thing, is that I don't think the UFC is ever going to lose out on a Paddy Pimblett or a Sean O'Malley. I think they're going to ante up and pay. I just do.
Well,
I think
that's the way they're acting. Is the reason they're going to get paid, is what I'm saying. The end of the tough.
They're absolutely making the right decision for their careers. They're making the right decision for the future of the UFC. They're making the right decision for the fighters' pay.
The tough guy era bullshit, it's over. It's going to be over.
And this goes back to what we talked about last time, that the UFC, this is what I meant by the UFC needs a commissioner, not a president. They need a guy that's going to come in and solve these problems, a guy that's going to understand and listen. The big the big problem with this is that Dana White's in charge, and Dana White doesn't listen to bullshit. I think he's being put in a position where he has to, because if the UFC loses out on Paddy Pimblett and the UFC loses out on Sugar Sean O'Malley, they're losing out on a lot of unearned dollars. And I'm all about the money. I'm all about earning potential, Dustin. I'm all about it. I'm all about the business aspect of this. If they lose out on these two fighters, they're losing out on millions, tens to hundreds of millions. These are two future champs.
They're only the first. That's what people need to realize. They're only the first. This is not going to be the last. There's a lot of fighters.
This is a new trend that's starting, that these younger fighters are starting to understand that the UFC is now worth over $7 billion. They have the money to pay their fighters. They don't have to keep up with this bullshit. They don't have to. There shouldn't be a prospect pay scale, second tier pay scale, a third tier. That's nonsense. This isn't regular workplace. This is a UFC, MMA promotion. Paddy Pimblett. What?
Have you ever watched the MMA show? It was on Netflix. Have you ever watched Kingdom?
Yeah.
Remember when they signed that dude Ryan on a 6-fight contract, and the head of the show, he was like, "Are you serious? A 6-fight contract? Are you kidding?" He was like, "That's like 3-4 years." Dude, the UFC does that to people.
Yes, they do.
And then what kills me is Dana always comes out. This is why I hate Dana. This is why, honestly, I love him, but I hate him. It's because he calls everybody else in the business a slime ball, but nobody else does that. Nobody else does that. 6-fight contracts?
Bellator does. I got to stop you there. Bellator does.
Okay, Bellator, that's the second biggest promotion, though. Second biggest.
Bellator has the shadiest contracts in the business. I don't care what anybody says. Look at Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler got locked into a 10-year contract that he signed when he was 20 years old and had no idea what he was looking at.
Who would sign a 10-year contract? You're kind of stupid for doing that. I mean, completely honest. But he's stupid for that. But What I'm saying is that he calls everybody else boxing. It doesn't matter, dude. He calls like Bob Arum, like people who are big in every other combat sport. He always calls him a slime ball, and I was like, Dana, you do the same shit. Why do you always call everybody else a slime ball? Why? Like you do the same shit.
It's the whole pot calling the kettle black. It's the same thing. Like I get it. I totally understand. I would never defend Dana White on this issue. He is absolutely terrible with fighter pay. UFC fighters are especially for the worth of the company, are the most disrespected professional athletes in the entire world. All right, let me draw that back. They're not the most. Women's soccer players are the most. U.S. women's soccer players are the most disrespected athletes in the entire world.
Yeah,
UFC is a close second, though.
Okay, but let's draw back on that though. So when the U.S. women's soccer team, the reason they don't get paid is what though? Because U.S. women's soccer doesn't draw as much money as the men, but the UFC draws that money, and they still don't pay them.
No, U.S. women's soccer draws more dollars in the U.S. than the U.S. men's team. Let's not get it twisted. They absolutely do.
Okay, but the U.S. women's soccer team doesn't draw what the UFC draws. I'm going to put it that way.
No.
And they still pay them like shit.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I just mean they get paid literal pennies on the dollar. Some of these are huge.
Is that Dana always sits there and is like, oh, we only do it for a company our size. But they always claim to be the NFL of MMA. And I was like, I'll tell you what, dude, you are as big as boxing. Boxing can't even touch your pay-per-view views. Can't even touch them. The only one that has, your fighter was involved, dum-dum. Like, literally,
yeah.
He was involved. Floyd Mayweather is the only boxer in recent memory to beat the UFC without Conor McGregor. He did beat the UFC without Conor McGregor. He's the only one. Nobody else did that. Nobody. Pacquiao, nobody. Without Floyd. Pacquiao didn't do it. A lot of these really, really top-notch fighters didn't do it. UFC has been clocking bigger numbers in PPVs than any combat sport in recent memory. We're talking like 15 to 20 years.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't want to hear that he doesn't have money. That's so stupid. You can pay them. You just don't.
Endeavor and the UFC alone, because Endeavor owns more than just the UFC. The UFC alone is worth over $7 billion. $7 billion with a B. They can pay these guys more. I mean, let's look at the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys are the highest value sports franchise in the entire world. They're worth under $7 billion. Look how much they pay their athletes.
And again, I just pointed out, so Patty, I'm going to tell everybody, all the viewers, man, Patty and Sugar Sean are going to start a great movement, MMA. Great movement. Get paid. Conor McGregor has been the only one to actually break the mold and get his money, whether they like it or not. But there's going to be more of those guys. There's going to be way more of them. Because
Absolutely.
They're going to.
Absolutely. All right. So that's always fun. Dustin and I can talk about fighter pay for a literal hour.
We have 3 days. We can talk about it.
We have done it before. We're still doing it in our fight chat. I wish sometimes that you guys, maybe one show, what we'll do, Dustin, is just pull up a screen share of our fight chat so they can see our back and forth. And we'll just read our own lines to each other. And that will be the whole show.
I'm fine with that.
Dustin and I go back and forth on this all the time. We mostly agree. The only things we disagree on is, Bellator and PFL and some of the other fighter promotions. But we mostly agree on this subject. Dana White needs to pay his fighters. Guys like Patty, guys like Sugar Sean O'Malley, keep it up. Please don't bend to the system. Don't listen to it. Don't get paid and don't worry about the rest of the fighters. That's the biggest thing with me. If you get paid, great. But make sure other guys are going to see the fruits of your labor too. Like, don't just you get paid and don't. That's what Conor did. Conor got paid, and then he didn't give a fuck about anybody else. I don't want to see that happen again. And Conor, on the verge of getting paid, was starting to talk about unions, fighter unions, and stuff like that. Then he got paid, and he stopped talking about it. Please don't do what Connor did. Keep this up. Keep this conversation going. I want more people. I hope Francis Ngannou keeps it up. I hope Cyril Gane chips in if he beats Ngannou. I hope this is an ongoing movement with these young guys in their 20s who really, really do understand what their worth is, because that is important. The old UFC fighters didn't. They really didn't. I love those guys, but they didn't understand the business aspect of this sport.
Tough guy.
These new
Tough
guys do. What?
Tough guy era is what I
It's
call it.
true.
Tough.
I don't need to get paid. I fight. Yeah, fuck off. Look at Brian. Look at some of these fighters. These old guys who are just a shell of themselves and broke. Like it's disgusting. All right. So we got to move on. We do have fights to talk about. We have a fight card, believe it or not, this week. It's not a great one. There are some big headlines in this fight card with the main event. So I'm going to try to zip through this as quickly as possible, Dustin, so we can really talk about the main event. Because that's really the only one that matters in this fight. That's the one that has ongoing consequences, that has lots of ramifications for the future of their division. So I am very, very excited for that fight. But as we do, we have UFC Vegas 41. We got to talk about it. We got to start off our card. We got Nick. I don't even know how to Negrano. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that. If his friends or family are listening, I'm sorry. He is Niku. I don't know much about this guy, and I know a lot about a lot of fighters. And I don't know much about this guy. I know he's young. I know he lost his UFC debut and then won his split decision. I know he was billed to be kind of a stud in the UFC. I know he's 27 years old. But I also know he's fighting as a light heavyweight, has yet to really prove anything of worth in a division that's getting better and better and better as the days go by. I'm excited to see if he finally lives up to a little bit of his hype. I'm excited to see if he finally gets that patented win. Granted, I shouldn't say finally, because he's only fought twice in the UFC and he's 27 years old. But I want to see him come out and have a decisive victory against Ike Villanueva, who is he's 37 years old. He made his UFC debut last year. 37 years old, you're 36 at the time making your UFC debut. It looks like Dana's trying to give you a break. Or maybe Dana did. What people don't realize is that the UFC actually pays fighters who are not on their active roster. That's probably what this was, that he was paying him and gave him a shot. He is a knockout artist. He is fun to watch. He has power for days. That is the one thing about Ike Villanueva I do know. But I don't know what your thoughts are about this, Dustin. I'm just looking to see a good fight.
I'm about the same. Like I said, I'll keep it, just crystal clear. A lot of these UFC Vegas fights, I mostly know more about the co-mains and the mains. So when it comes to these first three fights, I'm not very knowledgeable. So therefore, I mostly have to wait and see about these guys probably 2 or 3 fights later and see if they really make a run to really, really, really pay attention. So right now, no, I don't know much, but of course, I always love a big bruiser and somebody who likes to knock people out. So hopefully he comes out and climbs UFC rankings so we can give him a look.
Yeah, and then next fight we got Dwight Grant versus the very old, the very seasoned Francisco Trinaldo. Did you know that he was still kicking around in the UFC? This is a guy that dates all the way back in the UFC to Ultimate Fighter Brazil Season 1. Dustin. I listen, Francis Trinaldo. There was a minute there where he went on like a 5 or 6 win streak, and it was like, oh my god, this guy is a stud. He's got ground and pound. He's got Brazilian jiu-jitsu. This guy has it. And then he fought Kevin Lee and lost in a rear naked chokehold. Then he fought James Vick and lost. Then he fought Alexander Hernandez and lost. Then he fought Stolikov and lost. Um, he's a guy that just couldn't hold up with the evolving talent of the UFC, the young, faster guys that really, really were artists. And he pulls Dwight Grant, who I remember from knocking the shit out of Tyler Hill in 2018 in one of the first, if not the first, Dana White Contender Series season. Dwight Grant has power. Dwight Grant can knock you through the rafters, as they say. I'm picking Dwight Grant in this one. I think he comes out and wins in a victory. Now, they're both old fighters. Neither of them are young. This one does not excite me. I'm just looking for a knockout, but I think Trinaldo could take this to the ground and use his Brazilian jiu-jitsu to get a win. But I'm hoping Dwight Grant just comes out there and goes, you know what, I got power for days. I'm going to use it. Knocks this guy out. What do you think, Dustin? What do you feel?
I think I've actually seen Dwight Grant. I believe I've actually seen him. Yeah, that dude definitely will knock the block off. Big power, but I actually think that our other dude, I believe, I can't pronounce his name. I don't even want to. I think that he's probably a more well-rounded, probably a little bit more well-rounded. And please, guys, if you're more well-rounded than somebody, if you're a fighter, stop going to their strengths. Be Khabib. If you know you're going to get knocked out, just grab onto the leg. Just put them on their back. I mean, make them comfortable. And then when they're tired and they get up, you can just put pressure on them and they won't like it, and you'll eventually get a finish. That's mostly how it goes for wrestlers or really good ground guys. So please do it. You don't have to wrestle them to submit them. Just make them tired and then make it look like you have good hands.
Right.
Khabib does
That's
it.
what Charles Vettiiori used to do before he learned how to have good hands.
Just
All right,
just
we're
keep
moving
doing
on.
it. Just please do it. Fight to your.
We're moving on. We got Jessica Rose Clark versus Jocelyn Edwards. I know Monique is watching this, gonna kill me somewhere. For the life of me, I am trying to remember who these people are. I tried to find fight footage of these two, but as the UFC does now these days, they block that shit. It's almost impossible to find former past fights. Jocelyn Edwards is very young, 26 years old, coming off of her UFC debut on UFC ABC 1 with a huge victory, then losing to Carol Rosa, who I do know is no joke. And you got Jessica Rose Clark, who has been pretty inconsistent over her career with wins and losses back and forth. Can't seem to get anything going. I'm going to go with Jocelyn Edwards on this just because I do kind of recognize her. I know she's 26 years old. I know she's up and coming. Carol Rosa, I can't kill her over that loss as somebody who's 26 years old. So, it happens in your early career. She's somebody that really, if I'm remembering correctly, is a decent striker and decent on the ground. So I see her winning this fight, probably in a unanimous decision. Dustin, any thoughts? Are we moving right along to the co-main?
Not too many thoughts. We'll move right on to the co-main.
All right, the co-main, we got some names here. We got Grant Dawson versus Ricky Glenn. Grant Dawson, you might not remember who he is. He is 17-1, 27 years old. He's been in the UFC for he won the Dana White Contender Series against Adrian Diaz with a vicious rear naked chokehold that came out of left field. again in the second round and just hasn't lost. Just continues to win. Rear naked choke, unanimous decision, hammer fist, absolutely destroyed Leonardo Santos. This is a guy who's coming. He's a guy that has so much potential. He needs to work on his striking. That's the one thing he really needs to work on. He does not have good technique on his feet. He does not. He has power. He does have power. He has it in him to knock you out, to knock you down, especially. Maybe not knockout power, but he doesn't have the footwork. He doesn't have good stand up. But he can take you down and put you in deep waters and choke you out. He does. It doesn't matter who you are. He's that kind of guy that has a game plan, that knows how to win. He's coming in the lightweight division. He's a true prospect. I'm super excited to see this guy fight again. And he's drawing Ricky Glenn, who is a bit inconsistent, but is an exciting guy to watch. He is one that will throw some pretty crazy strikes. He is long. Knows how to use his length. He's not good on his ground. I think this is kind of a prop fight for Grant Dawson. I think that's really what this is, to kind of get his name continue to grow, because he's coming. Like I said, he's a guy he's a name to recognize, a name to follow. I think he wins this fight probably in unanimous decision. When Ricky Glenn does lose fights, it's not usually a stoppage. It's because he gets put into deep waters and they ride it out until victory because nobody wants to stand with him. Dustin, what do you think? I know you love wrestling. I know you love that the young wrestlers coming up.
Actually, the guy you're talking about, I believe, is from the Contender series, and I'm a big fan of the Contender series. If anybody does not know, that dude is one of the weird guys I like to look at in the UFC because he's one of those guys who go on like 5-6 fight win streaks that nobody knows about. And it's really weird how Dana does that. I don't understand it, but it's weird. That dude is an absolute up and coming contender, especially a wrestler in the lightweight division. I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't know what it is about wrestlers in the lightweight division, but they happen to come up very quickly because a lot of the 155 guys, they're wrestlers, but they end up not committing to that their whole career. They end up not kind of chasing that their whole career, and they try to end up in strike because the 155 division is so electric and it's so entertaining. But yeah, my dude from the Contender series, he'll be in the top 10. And this fight's a setup. He's going to the top 10.
I'm super excited because this is another name that's going to get added to this, I'm not going to say super young, but this core of really good fighters in this division. He's gonna create problems, especially if these guys just keep ignoring Charles Oliveira. If he beats Dustin Poirier and these guys continue to ignore him and not acknowledge him as the champ, I mean, guys like this young 27-year-old who's trying to prove a point, he's gonna create problems for all these guys, especially if he learns like how to stand up, not to stand up, not to knock people out, but if he learns a lick of like technique in his stand up, it's gonna be tough. He's gonna be a really, really good name to watch. I'm excited to see him. You're right. You describing him as one of those weird guys. He's a very oddball. Like he looks weird, he acts weird. He's just a weird guy, which in the lightweight division is kind of catching on. I mean, it really started with Tony Ferguson was your first weird guy. Then you had Beneil Dariush, whose fighting style still baffles me how he wins fights. I love watching it, but it's just that he looks like a drunken moron out there sometimes. And this is a guy that could create problems. I mean, this is a guy who you're looking wins this fight. We'll probably get a top 15 opponent after this. And then after that, if he beats a top 15 opponent, he's looking at guys like RDA, Dan Hooker, Gregor Gillespie, and right in the eyes and going, let's go, let's fight. And then he's right there in contention if he beats those guys. So this is a big, big fight. I want everybody to pay attention to this name. Please know Grant Dawson. Please know him and recognize him because he's coming. All right, now we're on our main event. So we got a headline here in this main event. This doesn't happen to us that often here on Fights Unwrapped, but we do have a headline on this main event, and of course we're talking about Paul Acosta versus Marvin Vettiiori. Paul Acosta looked like he tried to get out of another fight. I don't know how you feel about this, Dustin. I know that he is a big, he is a big human being. I understand that. And I know that's what you're going to say. So I want to get that out of the way, that I do totally understand that Costa's a little bit bigger than everybody in the middleweight division. Could easily make the jump to light heavyweight, but if he did, would probably get knocked the fuck out. So he stays in the middleweight division. But he's never really had an issue that I can remember or could find of him missing weight. He's very regimented on his weight schedule, whether it's steroids or not, like he's been accused of using in the past. Personally, think he does use some steroids. I mean, look at the man. His chin could cut glass, and his forehead comes out to the other side of the octagon. The guy's not. Anyway, we'll get off of that. I think it appears that he tried to get out of another fight, and Dana White said, "Hey, man, you can't back out of another fight. I don't care if you were drinking. I don't care if you were partying. I don't care if you were sick for a week, a month out of your fight. Like, you have to fight. I have given you leeway 3 times now for bullshit excuses. You have to fight against Marvin. Otherwise, I don't know what to tell you. You broke your contract for the last time and you're gone." I don't know why, because he should beat Vettiiori. He should beat him. I love Marvin Vettiiori. He's Italian. I'm Italian. I love rooting for Italians. The guy's an absolute monster. He's got crazy, crazy, crazy amount of heart. I mean, just look at his past fights. The guy, every war, he's been in some wars in his young career against Jack Hermanson, Carl Robertson. Like, this guy will throw down. He will throw down. Remember after the Jack Hermanson fight, how he was pointing at all the scratches on his body. He was like, "He fucking scratched me. The guy scratched me." I'll never forget that. That was hilarious. I think Costa should win this fight, but I think he'll lose because his heart's not in, his brain's not in, and he doesn't want to fight. So I'm picking Marvin Vettiiori to win this fight, and I'm picking him to win. I'm going to say by decision. I think this goes into a decision. What do you think, Dustin? You've been shaking your head and giving me some weird facial cues.
I hate Vettiiori. That dude's a weirdo. He's
not weird.
I understand
he's Italian, Dustin.
No, he's stupid is what he is. Italians aren't stupid. You know, they're a lot of things, but they're not stupid. Here's why I think he's stupid. You know, and here's why I don't think he'll ever evolve as a fighter. His comments alone on his 2 Izzy losses are stupid. They're stupid. The reason I don't think he's ever going to get better is because he doesn't want to admit that he lost or a better man won. When you admit that you got beat, it tells you that you got beat, and it tells you there's something to improve. He had no chance against Izzy, especially in the second fight, because Izzy's just world-class in an area that he's not, and the area that he's better in, he didn't even want to use because his ego told him not to. But I don't get it because he got his ass whooped. But he got his ass whooped, and then he comes back and says he didn't win that fight. I mean, dude, watch the tape. Please go back and watch it. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. You were in the fight. How do you know that you didn't get beat up? I don't get it. But, and then it comes to Costa. Costa's another one. He's another guy that got his ego hurt by the champ. Got his ego hurt. He's a black belt. He's actually a pretty high-level black belt. Put it that way. Costa's actually very, very good on the ground. And again, he don't want to use it against Izzy. He wants to stand up and be a warrior. I mean, well, you can do that. Except when it's a tactician that's won 100 and plus kickboxing fights, and that is a monster that will knock you out. But hey, man, who am I? I don't know. I just read the record. But here's how it goes. Costa's stupid. I don't even like talking about stupid people. It's really bad. He's just stupid. I couldn't make weight. You knew about this fight. It's not like someone told you 2 weeks ago. You could have started cutting months ago. And don't give me the bullshit that he's too big. And you thought I was going to defend him. That he's too big. No, I'm not. Because Khabib is huge. Khabib had problems making weight earlier in his career at 155. But guess what Khabib eventually did? His weird self eventually started making weight. Costa's never had a problem. And all of a sudden he's got a problem. Alec, he had such a problem making weight that he drank an entire bottle of wine before a fight. Are you serious? You had such a problem. You drank an entire bottle of alcohol before a fight. So you're telling me that you were nervous somehow, that you weren't in shape? Shut up. Shut up. You had plenty of time. Vettiiori is just stupid, and I don't think he's ever going to improve because he's being stupid. He might even beat Costa. I don't know. I think Costa's going to knock his ass out, in my opinion. Especially the fact that he let Costa come in heavy. He let him come in heavy. So therefore, Vettiiori, I don't know. He doesn't have good striking. I think he's a high pressure fighter. But when Costa sends that right hand down the middle, you ain't going to want to press forward no more. Now, he did get beat by Izzy, but I'm not going to sit here and bring back that he doesn't have punching power. Because if he lands that shit, bro, you're on the floor. I'm completely honest. If he lands that right hand, bro, you going to be seeing the stars. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. You better pray to whatever you pray to that he doesn't land a clean combination. Because he's a very strong dude. He's like a smaller and more stockier Vitor Belfort. It's really weird. He's just not as fast. Belfort's a little faster. But he's literally like a stocky Vitor. It's really weird. He's shorter, a little bit stockier. But he's not going to do... He should beat Vettiiori. Vittori's killing himself, man. He's killing himself. He's killing his credibility. He's killing his own fight career because he doesn't want to admit that he can get better. And that's what's killing me. If you don't admit that you can get better, then you're not going to beat champions. You're not going to beat them. If you think you're the man and you lose, it doesn't make any sense. And it wasn't even a close fight. So therefore, I think Costa's going to knock his ass out, especially because Costa let him come in. Not Costa, but Vettiiori let him come in heavy and not even cut. I think he's going to get his ass knocked out.
And the other thing with Vettiiori, though, I love to root for the Italian fighters. He had no business being in the octagon with Izzy. Let's get that straight. No business. That should have been Robert Whittaker, or anybody else. Vettiiori is very. Sometimes this happens with fighters where they get very lucky because of circumstances that are going on in the division. Vettiiori is one of those. He beat Jack Hermanson, who was on the rise, and then fought Kevin Holland at the right time in Kevin Holland's career and beat him too. And that's why he's got a top 5 ranking. That's why he is where he is today. I think by the end of, listen, like I said, Costa should win this fight. He should win this fight in the first round. He should knock this guy out quick. Seriously, he should. Vettiiori is a high-pressure fighter, but guess what? He's not very tactical about that high pressure. And when you fight guys with power and you're not tactical with high pressure, you get knocked the fuck out. That's what happens. He's going to get a stiff right. If Costa's up to the level of fighting that we're used to seeing him at, granted, I still don't think he beat Romero, but that's a different discussion for a different day. If Costa's at that level he was against Uriah Hall, Johnny Hendricks, Bamboos, McLellan, Balby, if he's at that level of fighting, he should knock this guy out in the first round. Vettiiori, And I know 2021, the end of 2021 is right around the corner. He should be out of the top 5 by then. Because let's look at this division. This is what I really wanted to talk about with this fight. We don't have much time, so I'll be quick. This division is absolutely stacked. But you got Sean Strickland coming out, Darren Till, who needs to fight again, who's outside of the top 5. You got Kevin Holland, who we'll see what happens with him. And you got a bunch of young guys coming up. You got Shabazian. You got some other guys who are outside of the top 15 who could be in the top 10 in early 2022. This division's stacked. And then Marvin Vettiiori, honestly, I would love to see him fight Jack Hermanson again and see who wins that fight. I just don't think he belongs in the top 5. I think Sean Strickland overtakes him by the end of 2021. I think we'll see Vettiiori drop out.
The reason I don't Vettiiori went over Holland is because Holland's the same person. He gets beat, and then he jokes about the reason he gets beat.
To his credit, he went and practiced wrestling with DC. He did make the effort to make changes, but I don't know how hard he tried in that effort.
Quit joking. You can only joke when you win. That's when you get to joke. You don't get to play around and laugh all day when you're getting beat up, man. That stuff doesn't make sense. Like, I'm a competitor, dude. Like, my favorite sport's football. And when I lose at football, dude, I'm distraught. I hate it, dude. Even now, it could be a backyard football game, and I'm pissed. I could only imagine somebody who puts their lives on the line getting punched in the face, losing, and laughing. That doesn't make any sense to me. It makes no sense. Doesn't.
So anyway, this fight has some big impact on the division. Acosta could fight again for the championship. I don't think he will ever fight Izzy ever again. I don't think he wants to step in the octagon with him. I think he's terrified of the man and his leg kicks. He landed one leg kick, and that fight was over, essentially. It wasn't literally over, but it was over after that first leg kick. Fucking Acosta went, holy shit, this guy can kick. And he didn't want anything to do with his leg after that.
His leg was so red. I felt bad, dude. I was sitting over watching.
After that first one, it was red. It was like, oh, fuck. Anyway, this fight does have big. If Acosta does win this fight or Vettiiori does win this fight, Vettiiori will probably, if he wins, will probably take over the number 2 ranking. Acosta will drop probably to 5. If Vettiiori loses, I could see Vettiiori dropping out of the top 5 and Acosta staying at the number 2 and next in line for a rematch against Izzy when he eventually beats Robert Whittaker. And I love you, Reaper. I love you, Robert Whittaker, but I'm sorry, you're not going to beat Izzy. It's going to be a close fight, much closer fight the next time, but this fight is really important to this division that I love, so I will be tuning in for sure and paying attention. But with that, we're going to say happy fight week, everybody. It's been a pleasure sharing this evening, the beautiful Thursday night, talking about fights and headlines. We'll catch you all next week. Thanks for tuning in. See you, Dustin.